All right. Sort of Sports Podcast, episode 97. All right. Well, the Nuggets lost to the Timberwolves in 7. I originally, when we did, I did. I don't know. We did. I mean, you could have done your playoff predictions too. It's just this podcast only had my playoff predictions. Also, shout out to my buddy Dalton Edwards. I think we're nearing, the 2-year anniversary of we did a podcast together. We did a couple pods together. We did one that was an AEW WWE thing back when we were both watching both before we both were just like, yeah, wow, we really prefer WWE. But back when AEW was a lot more fun. And we did a pod that was the conference finals preview. Yeah, I think that probably just about had its 2-year anniversary. May 16th. Yeah, so a couple days ago. I just remember doing that podcast. I remember that to me was such a weird conference finals group. Warriors, Dallas, Boston, Heat. That was such an interesting quartet. I always think it's fun to look at the alternative finals of every year. So if you can let me look up NBA conference finals every year. I think I can find that, right? Just the list on Wikipedia. Yeah, the way I want it. There it is. Okay. So for example, like 2023, the alternative finals. So if you take the two losing teams in the conference finals, what the finals would have looked like, it would have been a Lakers-Celtics finals. In 2023, we would have had LeBron going up against Tatum, battle for the 18th championship in the NBA. Both teams have 17 championships. So I think that's pretty interesting. Obviously, this came nowhere close to happening as the Lakers got swept by the Nuggets. And the Heat-Boston series did go 7. But I remember Heat went up 3-0, and it almost looked like Boston was going to come back. It's very interesting. But then let's go back year before that, 2022. Heat lose in 7 to the Celtics, so it's a reverse of the next year. And so the alternative finals would have been Heat-Dallas because Dallas lost to the Warriors. And that's interesting. Luka gets an opportunity for the final. So it's fun to do this. I think it's really fun when you look back at some years with really weird conference finals members. Like 2013, it was Spurs-Grizzlies. Now, 2013 NBA Finals, those of you who don't remember, was the San Antonio Spurs-Miami Heat series where the Spurs almost beat LeBron, and then Ray Allen hit a huge three. Bosh out to Allen for 3. Bang, Mike Breen, that famous call. All that. That goes on LeBron winning his second NBA championship over the Spurs in 7. So the alternative finals that year would have been the Memphis Grizzlies of Marc Gasol and Mike Conley, the grit and grind Grizzlies, against the Indiana Pacers with a very young Paul George. I just think that's kind of wild when you look at it like that. The alternative 2013 finals, Grizzlies, Pacers. First of all, the jerseys don't mix at all on that. Not a bit. But the marketing would be hilarious. The Memphis, Indiana marketing. Like, what is the NBA marketing team? I always make jokes about the NBA marketing team screaming when whenever there's certain teams like that aren't the most marketable teams make it to the finals. So, for example, let's talk about our current conference final setup, which is Pacers versus Boston, Minnesota versus Dallas. The NBA is pretty happy marketing-wise with the West because you got Luka and Anthony Edwards going at it. The Anthony Edwards popularity, I've been tweeting. I think I've tweeted that like 3 or 4 times now. That and I said it on the podcast 2 episodes ago, that if they beat the Nuggets, his popularity was going to go stratospheric. And they did. And his popularity is going stratospheric. And he's going to single-handedly make Adidas shoes very relevant. Like, very relevant. That's a huge signing by them. They just have... they don't have, like, a ton, I think, of signature shoes. Let me check to make sure I know what I'm talking about. But... because like Derrick Rose was like one of their main guys, and he always had like he is one of the best pro athlete logos easily. But it just kind of sucks that obviously all the injuries happened with him. And then they got Trae Young, and they had Donovan Mitchell, and they had Damian Lillard. So they had this trio. Like, they pretty much were like, okay, we're just going to go out and get these flashy guards. And I think Don is the one that's obviously paid off long-term the most. Dame, they've made 8 Dame shoes. So, obviously that's paid for itself. It was big. But I'm saying the Dame shoes were pretty popular, but I never knew anybody who was like, man, the Dame. Like, no one, somebody mentioned, like, oh, those kind of look nice. And I'm like, yeah, I don't know. Never heard anybody go crazy with those. The Donovan Mitchell shoes actually did have a brief, like, I don't know if they're as big anymore, but there was a moment there that there were a lot of people. I'm not a huge shoe guy. I'm really not. I have owned Trae Young's. I have owned some Donovan Mitchell's. The Donovan Mitchell 3s I bought 2 pairs of because he had a Fresh Prince of Bel-Air one that I bought and I just wear normally. And then I had a pair for basketball. I wore the Donovan Mitchell 3s. Oh, yeah, they had Harden, too. So, wow, they just really went for all the flashy guards. That's interesting. But they got Anthony Edwards, and if there's a player that I think has an opportunity to completely just, like, own a brand and make it big like Steph Curry did with Under Armour, I think Anthony Edwards is that guy. I think his popularity is just going to get insane. He's really funny. He's exceptionally likable, but he's also, like, tough as hell and talks shit to the crowd and, yelled something at a fan that I will not say. I had to think about how that sentence ended. No, like, I'm definitely not saying that. But, yeah, so Anthony Edwards is just an electric player. I think everybody really enjoys him. And I make jokes about how the NBA always wants to have an American guy to market, but I do think that's legitimate. I obviously love my 3 favorite players in the NBA are Victor Wembanyama, Nikola Jokic, and Giannis Antetokounmpo. Very into their games, but I do think there are guys that just prefer the more American play style, the slashing to the rim style that Anthony Edwards has in his game. He's not only going to the rim and dunking on guys, he's obviously shooting a lot of jumpers, but he does have a kind of retro style to him, and the tenacity he plays the game with, I think, also has a retro style, and I think has a chance to bring in some of the older fans that way that believe the league is soft and stuff like that, which the league is softer than it used to be. That's just a true statement, and I agree with that. I just think, like, you think about electric players, like Harden was electric, but Harden was never going to be an uber popular talent. I mean, he was popular, don't get me wrong, but he was never going to be on the level of a Curry because he was too whiny, he was too dislikable. People were never going to go for that. Whereas Edwards has a chance to just be like the face. I guess I'm saying Curry was basically the face of the NBA along with LeBron. Curry had the personality to do it. He had the play style to do it. He was. I'm trying to word this correctly. It's like there's popular players and then there's like icons. And I think Curry and LeBron are the 2 of the last, like, of the 2010s, I would say. Obviously before that was like Kobe. Say is an icon. I mean, Tim Duncan, not really an icon, just popularity-wise. He's just not that level of popular. He's a hell of a player. I think Tim Duncan, greatest power forward of all time. But that doesn't mean he's an icon. You get what I'm saying here? There's not that level of everyone knows Tim Duncan as soon as you say it. Most people know Tim Duncan from banking a shot. That's just like a thing. People be like, oh, I'm banking it like I'm Tim Duncan. That's really what he's most known for. Whereas I would say like Shaq, Dirk, just because all the power overseas he holds, Kareem for obvious reasons, Michael Jordan, Magic Johnson, Larry Bird. I think those are like the ones that come to my mind. Obviously, I already said Kobe, LeBron, Curry. I think there's an argument for KD. I really do. I do think there's an argument for KD. But I don't know that in 20 years when my kids are talking about the NBA, Kevin Durant feels like an important player for them to know. Kevin Durant feels like somebody I will talk about. I think he definitely had the talent to be, but I just think the way his career path was and the way it turned out, he's not gonna be. I don't know. I don't know. I think the legacy is just there. Back to Anthony Edwards. he has a real opportunity here to do something insane, which is he's 22 years old. He is the same age as my older sister, which is crazy for me to think about. Um, and I'm talking about him and putting him on the front of my podcast. That's just kind of wild. Oh, he's younger than her. Oh, not by like a year or anything, but like a month. But that's crazy. Anyways, he's got a real chance to be that dude. And 22 years of age, winning a finals. Jordan didn't do that. LeBron didn't do that. Like that's pretty crazy. I gotta say. We should talk about the Nuggets Timberwolves thing. So Game 7's last night. I was planning on watching it. Had a later dinner, so I missed the first half. And G's like, well, didn't you want to watch that? And I was like, yeah. So I go to put it on, and Beverly Hills Cop is on Sundance. So I'm just doing the flip back and forth. And it's funny because I turned the Nuggets game on, and they're up by like 20-ish. It was like 57. It was like a 57-42 score, something like that, you know? And I'm like, oh, okay. So I flip back to Beverly Hills Cop on Sundance, and I was enjoying, they're doing the scene when the police chief's yelling at him, which isn't the same when they have to change out the swear words for less explicit ones, when it just becomes damn and hell. It's not as comedic. It's really needed. You really got to own it for it to be the best level for the comedy, but still fun to just have on TV, right? Well, then I flip back and it's like, oh, it's a 10-point game. Okay, well, Nuggets going to run. Then I flip back to Beverly Hills Cop. Now he's driving into Beverly Hills. All right, cool. I flip back to the game. Oh, the Timberwolves have the lead. What? Oh, okay, when I come back to this, I'm sure. No, I'm just going to stay here. Oh, the game. G's leaving. Okay, well, I'll see you later, G. Wait a minute, they're not going to. Okay, well, Denver's going to come back. They got 3 or 4 minutes. They'll come back. We're fine. It's fine. They just lost. Oh, my gosh. The Timberwolves beat them. That was my evening last night. So there was me recalling it for you. When I did my NBA playoff predictions, I had this series going 7. It did go 7. I obviously had the Nuggets. I predicted that, before the beginning of the playoffs. I wouldn't say it was exactly a hot take to have these two teams here. I don't think anybody was too high on the Suns based off the way they played in the regular season. I don't think a lot of people were like, oh, that Suns team's really got something to them. I think a lot of people knew we had a chance to see something relatively special from this Timberwolves team, and now it's become like super special. Like they've got some crazy things that can go on here. First of all, a Gobert ring would really make some uncomfortable conversations come up about his legacy and his level in the pantheon of greatest defensive players ever. As far as Karl Anthony Towns, he's went from a guy that pretty much everybody was like, yeah, well, a lot of talent there, but not the best teammate, don't know if he'll ever do anything substantial, to now he's got a chance to be the second best player in a championship team. As far as Anthony Edwards goes, I thought he was going to be really good, but he has taken what we thought Ja was going to do is what Anthony Edwards is doing. He is that electric, fun personality, brings in young and old fans guy that the NBA can market. He is what we thought Ja would be, which is what we thought Zion would be. Anthony Edwards is that guy. He has. Now, I know you're like, wow, Ryan, you're acting like they're just going to take the Mavericks series could go 7. I think the Mavericks have been quite impressed with. They really went all in on the Kyrie thing to try to prove to Luka, like, look, we want to win with you here, and it's paid off. PJ Washington has absolutely popped off for them, and I think the marketing team couldn't be any happier, and I couldn't be any happier, honestly. I think this was an excellent scenario for the Mavericks to beat the Thunder, because while I think that Thunder team is excellent, the Luka versus Jokic or Luka versus Anthony Edwards matchup was always going to be more interesting, and now we got Luka versus Anthony Edwards, which I think is the most interesting matchup. Because no matter what, we are getting this could be the first championship in a massive legacy potential between these two guys. I know I'm talking a lot about the West. That's because I truly believe that Nuggets Timberwolves second round matchup was the NBA Finals. Like, I think that winner of that series is winning the whole thing. I said that before the series started. And I meant that. I think, honestly, Anthony Edwards and the Timberwolves are going to win the finals. Who is it against? Let's flip it to the East. As far as the East goes, I was upset to see that Knicks team lose. You guys know I really liked that team. I thought they were very fun. But you play guys a lot of minutes. They've already been having injury problems. The Brunson hand thing, it just sucks. It really just sucks. And it's almost one of those where I'm happy the Pacers won once he got hurt. Like, I'm glad the Knicks didn't somehow pull it out. And then we just get this series of Boston that's just sad. It's like Boston, Knicks, first Knicks conference finals since, goodness, probably like 1999? Well, I was just on the page of conference finals. I can just scroll through and see the Knicks. Let me pull this back up real quick. 99 was the last time they won one. 2000 was against the Pacers, oddly enough. The team, they just stopped them this year. Yeah, the Larry Bird coached Pacers that played the Lakers in the finals. That was actually the first ever NBA game I watched on NBA TV for NBA Hardwood Classics. Was the 2000s finals. I don't know how you would say that. 2000, I guess the 2000 finals. That was Pacers with like Reggie, and I think Jermaine O'Neal is there. Big Jermaine O'Neal guy when I was younger because he was absolutely dirty in NBA Live 2005. Probably my favorite NBA basketball game ever. It's up there. It's like that 2K11, 2K. I don't know. Was 13 also up there? Maybe. I don't know. Those are probably my top three. But anyways, yeah, who else on this Pacers team? It was Al Harrington, Mark Jackson, Reggie Miller, Sam Perkins, Jalen Rose. Jermaine O'Neal wasn't there yet. Jermaine O'Neal was not there yet. He got there in like 2004 though. Yeah, when they were in the conference. The Pacers were in the conference finals against the Pistons. Yeah. But anyways, the last New York Knicks conference finals is 2000. And this is obviously a very beloved Knicks team. I think it's more liked than that, like Melo era. Like probably the most well-liked Knicks team since like the 2000 team, like the late 90s. I even think there's an argument against that. Like, this is a Knicks team that it really seemed like New York was really in love with. And Brunson has become what they thought Donovan Mitchell was going to be for them. And if I'm them, I'm not even trying to get Mitchell from the Cavs. I don't know why you would. I think their probably goal is to get Mikal Bridges because I think they want the 4 Villanova guys. I was just listening to Bill Simmons' podcast, and I don't know if it was him or Rasulo that said that. But I was like, yeah, that would make sense. You run those 4 and Randall or those 4 and Hartenstein. Maybe you have to move Randall to get Mikal Bridges. That's a good lineup. Now, do you ever go to the finals of that lineup? I don't know. But, I mean, Brunson has surprised me a lot of the ways. Now, the hand thing sucks. It really does. But I'm interested. I think there's still potential with this team. But I just have a hard time with this Knicks team believing that they're ever going to win a championship in the next 3 years. I think it's going to be a really fun team. I think Brunson's going to continue to be elite. But I have a hard time seeing them go to the NBA Final. First of all, in the East, it's like in the next couple of years, you're going to have to watch out for the Magic if they can continue to get better. I think Paolo could be really special for them. You're thinking, okay, maybe the Bucks make some moves, and they're eventually really good again. Celtics don't really show any signs of slowing up. And this Pacers team is really not going to go anywhere. So if they improve, you better watch out. Miami's always at risk to do something. So I think the East isn't very good right now, but I think it will be better in a few years. The thing is that you have in the East that you don't have – the thing is you have in the West that you don't have in the East is that in the West you've got these like, oh goodness, teams where it's just like the Spurs where it's like, okay, once they get a cast around them, holy shit, what are we going to do? What are we going to do when Wemby has a good cast around him? And then you got the Timberwolves now where it's like, whoa, Anthony Edwards is a top 5 player in the league. whoa, at the age of 22. Like, he's going to be around for the next, 15 years wreaking havoc. So you got to watch out for that. And then the Thunder obviously aren't going to go anywhere. So in the West, it's like the next 5-10 years, you're going to have to constantly be afraid of one of those. Now, granted, a lot of things can change in 1 year, let alone 5 to 10. But I'm just saying, right now, you sit here, you would rather be in the East trying to build something in the West. But you also got to make the argument, well, then you get to the finals, can you really beat one of those teams? Because here's the other thing, I didn't even touch about this. Where do the Nuggets go from here? Probably not too much, because the Nuggets could be back next year and win the finals. If you said who's the best 3 teams in the NBA next year, I'm probably saying Timberwolves, Nuggets, Thunder. That's probably my top 3 right there. I have no concerns if I'm the Nuggets. If I'm the Thunder, I'm probably a little more concerned to make a move, because you don't just want to be the fun young team that was always one piece away. That's the thing. The teams that really don't want to be in the West are like the Suns. Like, what do you really do when you're them? What do you really do if you're the Lakers? Those are the teams you don't want to be. Also, Jokic played great in this series. I don't think anyone's really going to dog on Jokic. Props to Anthony Edwards for proving he's a really good two-way player, because he was really playing good defense on Murray. So I got to give Anthony Edwards props. But I am kind of excited for this Pacers team. It's definitely a surprise to see them in the conference finals. And I feel like if I'm the Celtics, I'm a little concerned, because the way the Pacers win is they just randomly get hot some games, and other games they can't shoot well at all. But if they can just put together 4 games where they're hot, they can really beat, actually 3 games where they're hot, and then 1 where they just magically pull it out. And that's what you got to watch out for, is if you're the Celtics, you got to put them away early. You don't want to hang around with the Pacers. I think the Celtics are obviously a better team, but you guys know I'm very low on this Celtics team. I just don't believe in Jason Tatum being the best player in a championship team. If the Pacers win this, it would be absolutely hilarious. Just absolutely hilarious, because this Pacers team will go 5 games with the Timberwolves or Mavericks. Well, I shouldn't say that. If they played the Mavs, it might go 6. But if they play the Timberwolves, we might even see a sweep. I'm not playing around. The Timberwolves will destroy this. It's a terrible matchup on all accounts for the Pacers. They're going to put Anthony Edwards on Tyrese Halliburton. Gobert and Karl-Anthony Towns are going to lock down the paint. Karl-Anthony Towns has come a long way defensively, and he's shown that during this Nuggets series. So that Pacers team, which doesn't have a lot of low scoring other than, Turner, I guess, is pretty good, but I don't believe he's going to outplay Gobert and Karl-Anthony Towns. So I hate the matchup if I'm the Pacers as far as the Timberwolves. If I'm the Pacers, I honestly rather would have had to face the Nuggets. I would have been praying for the Nuggets to beat the Timberwolves. And you're like, okay, if we magically make it to the finals, we can somehow upset the Celtics. As far as the Celtics go, I don't know if that's really a bad or good matchup against the Pacers. I think it's fine. I don't really think they care that much. Obviously, they would have preferred to play a Knicks team without Brunson. That's the thing with the Knicks, is I just don't know really where they go from here, and I don't know if this team ever wins the finals. It might make it 1 year. I just don't know if it ever wins it. I'm just concerned. But the thing is, if you're going to say have a guy on a pretty good team that could randomly explode and somehow win you finals, I think Brunson's near the top of that list. I think Luka's on there, where it's guys that I think in the playoffs could just magically make a late run that they never should have been that far, like the 2011 Mavericks with Dirk Nowitzki. I think I would legitimately put Brunson maybe top 3 that conversation of he could randomly get to a finals right now. As much as I like Giannis, Brunson's above him right now for that doing that type of thing. I'd say Luka is up there. I think Jokic he's got to have a good team around because he's such a team player. He's not gonna. I don't think he's got that. If Kawhi was healthy more, I'd put Kawhi there, but I don't really know who the third is, because I can't really say it for Edwards right now, because I think this Timberwolves team is incredibly well constructed. I really do. So it's Brunson and Luka are the first 2 that come to my mind. But I also want to say, really quick, just the NBA, league in general. I talk about my top 3 in the NBA, being Jokic, Giannis, Luka. And I was pretty consistently putting Embiid like 4 or 5. I think after this playoffs, it's got to be Shea and Anthony Edwards 4 or 5. I would put Anthony Edwards above Shea, actually. I'd make him 4. And I know you're like, well, Shea probably did outplay him stats-wise, but I think it's going to be pretty crazy when Anthony Edwards wins the finals. That's going to be wow. I think that is what's going to happen. I think he'll be Finals MVP, and I think that makes it's going to be interesting. Because here's the thing: is Luka is better than Anthony Edwards. Like I'm not lying. Luka is better than Anthony Edwards. That is a true statement. But Anthony Edwards is so much better defensively that if I'm trying to win the finals, I would rather have him. And here's the bigger thing I want to talk about. I guess you want my predictions for the series. I'm going to take the Pacers over the Celtics in 7, and I'm going to take Minnesota over Dallas in 6. And we'll talk about the NBA Finals when it comes. It'll probably actually end up being Timberwolves-Celtics, but I just love to hate on the Celtics team because I don't think it's very good. Especially without Porzingis. I don't really like their matchups at all, but I think it'd just be fun to see the Pacers in it. But if the Pacers play the Timberwolves, that's like goes like 5 games, and the Timberwolves win. It's like, whoa. It's not really a fun finals, which sucks because this is the bigger point I want to talk about. I've been saying for the last couple seasons, really ever since the bubble, the NBA has been absolutely on a tear and having hood classic seasons. Yet, my own interest in the NBA has waned. Like, I think I was less interested in 22 than I was in 21. And in 23, I was basically only interested in the Jokic. Like, if it wasn't Jokic or Giannis, I really couldn't care that much. This year, I think, has been so good that I honestly struggle to call the last couple years hood classics. Like, I think this season has been so strong. At least, I don't know if the season, I guess, is more the playoffs. This playoffs has been so strong that I think it's probably the best I've ever witnessed. Because I think the only one that comes close would be like 2019. Because I hardly watched any NBA basketball the 18-19 season. And that playoffs was so good with the Kawhi buzzer beater over the Sixers, that great Raptors run into the finals, Damian Lillard hitting the buzzer. I think that might be the best. But this is a real argument in my mind. Because you've had a legitimately those two semifinals in the West were both interesting. To me, Nuggets Timberwolves was must-see TV. I legitimately watched parts of every single game in that series, which I never do. I haven't watched an NBA series like every game since the Cavs were in the finals. That was the last time, like those Cavs teams, the last time I'd watch every game, like making an appointment viewing. I mean, last year I didn't even get to watch the NBA Finals, really. I was in Europe. They were on at like 3 a.m. I'd watch the highlights after. I'd form my opinions based off I did the thing I hate. I form my opinions just based off the social media posts. Stuff like I really didn't have to watch it because I figured, look, I know how good Jokic is. I've watched him before. He's electric. I don't know if electric's the right word. He's a master of his craft and, make it work. And that's what happened. I don't know. I'm really not too disappointed I missed the 23 finals because I think last year, that finals just wasn't that interesting. I mean, that's what's going to suck is I think this playoffs has gone quite well for the NBA because I found myself talking about NBA basketball more, being more interested in it. I think a lot of my friends have been more interested in it. And a lot of it has to do with I've been saying for years that we've had a lot more parity in the NBA, but this year has been, I think, the peak of that. I don't know too many people that would have predicted a Mavericks Timberwolves conference finals and a Pacers Celtics conference finals, let alone those separately. Like not even together. Let's just say separately. Like getting one of those right. I mean, pretty impressive. And I guess some of it's the injuries as far as the East goes. The injuries fall a different way. Bucks might be farther. injuries fall a different way. The Knicks I feel like most definitely would be there. But those happened. And I think the NBA, I dog on them a lot, but I will give them credit. These playoffs, I think, have really gone well. And I think with the rise of Wembanyama on the way, they've got a real chance here to kind of grab me again and make me once again very interested in the product they're putting out and keeping up a lot more, because I found myself being very excited. And I think it's going to be a little sad that it's potentially going to end in the finals that's not going to be super interesting, because even like Boston, Minnesota is not really the most interesting finals. I don't really think there's an East team that is very interesting against this Minnesota team. I mean, Boston, Minnesota might go 6 games, but it's like, I know who's winning that. So that's really the one shame, is that I just, if the NBA could somehow like BS their way into like putting it, because the thing is, they do need 2 more expansion teams. The league is too talented. They need 2 more teams. And I think it would be good to obviously put in the Seattle team, put in the Vegas team. Those are the 2 places that make sense, right? Bring back the Sonics and make a Vegas team. If the league was smart, they would put Oklahoma City in the Eastern Conference. Now, here's the thing. It doesn't make sense. Memphis should switch to the East. Actually, I take it back. Not Oklahoma City. I don't know why I said that. Memphis, most geographically, should switch to the East. But if the league's smart, they won't do that. You'll move Minnesota to the East, because that gives the East that guy. That gives the East a guy every year. And the West can be Spurs, Thunder, whatever else gets formed within the next couple of years. I think that would be very smart for the NBA to make the Eastern Conference the Anthony Edwards Conference, which, you go back in time, it was the LeBron James Conference, and before him, it was the Michael Jordan Conference. So having that guy on the East, I think, would be nice. So you're like guaranteed an interesting heavyweight fight for the finals. So if they're really, if I'm the NBA right now, that's what I'm thinking. Is it's like, yeah, we could have done Memphis, but all that John Moran energy we had has now been shifted to Anthony Edwards. And it's like, let's say I think most likely the Timberwolves are going to be 2024 NBA champions. Let's say these new expansion teams come in 27, 28. I still think Anthony Edwards at that point will probably be like best players in the league will be him and Wemby, probably the 2 best. And you could have them on opposite sides of the conference, and Wemby's going up against the Thunder every year, and then Anthony Edwards has to deal with whatever's going on at the East then. I think that would be very interesting. Maybe my Pistons will finally be good then. Probably not. 5th pick in the NBA draft. I didn't even talk about the draft lottery, but because it's such a bad draft, which it's so funny because I'm willing to bet it would be so funny if the next there's a guy in this draft who ends up being a top 3 player in the NBA in 10 years. Kind of like Jokic came out of nowhere, or Giannis somewhat nowhere. Because Giannis was in the 2013 draft, which is the last draft that was considered really terrible. And obviously Giannis is exceptional. And there's no real way to predict which guy that's going to be. Because if you are like, oh, well, this guy's secretly going to be amazing, well, then that doesn't really count. Because it has to be a surprise. So you can't predict who the surprise is going to be. Because it's not how that works. So I just think it'd be really funny if in this draft, the 23rd pick guy ends up being the next Nikola Jokic. It'd just be funny. Also, I talked earlier about how I kicked Embiid out of top 5 best players in the NBA. I'm done with his ass. I'm so done with his ass. He's not. Also, Anthony Edwards postgame, I did watch the interview with the TNT crew. Another reason he's so likable and fun is Charles Barkley's it's a clip that's been going viral online. I knew it would as soon as I saw it live because it's funny. Yeah. Charles Barkley's Anthony, I haven't been in Minnesota in a long time. And he goes, you have to send. Anthony Edwards goes, bring your ass. Just like that. And I was that's pretty funny. Yeah, so apparently Charles Barkley asked Anthony Edwards for a list of good restaurants to eat while he's in Minnesota. Smaller market team, popping off. Anthony Edwards has a chance to do something incredible. And I think this Dallas matchup is much more interesting than the Thunder matchup. I think the Thunder are very talented. A very close friend of mine, Ian's a big Thunder fan, and I just don't find them as interesting. I think the Mavericks are more interesting. You guys know I love it when things are interesting. I love the narrative aspect. I love that part of professional sports. I like it when it feels like there's characters in it, because at the end of the day, it is entertainment. It's my inner WWE fan coming out, and I think Minnesota versus Dallas is really interesting. And I think that'll probably go – I might go 7, honestly. I just don't want to face Luka in 7 if I'm the Timberwolves. Or Kyrie. Kyrie's been playing really well. But I also trust that this is really interesting because I don't want to say that they have the best player in the series, because Luka – I would say Luka's better than Anthony Edwards, but it's interesting because usually the best player in the series wins. But, it's going to be very intriguing. But I think it'll probably go 6, and I think Minnesota will win. I think Pacers-Boston goes 7, and Pacers pull it out. For being realistic, if you put a gun to my head and make me predict that series, I would say Boston beats the Pacers in 6, but probably 5, honestly. But let's be honest, most of my predictions are what I want to see more than anything else. Because at the end of the day, that's more fun for me. Just to predict what I'd like to see. So, and there's that. Sometimes I go against what I'd like to see, because if I did everything I'd like to see, I'd be predicting the NBA champions for 2024 to be the Detroit Pistons. Oh, wait. That's a joke for all you long-term listeners of the pod. Anyways, I learned that in Heat, Al Pacino's character originally had like a cocaine addiction. That makes that performance make a lot more sense. So I got to give Al Pacino some credit on that, because that definitely adds up based off the way he played the character. All right, I think that's it from me. As far as WNBA goes, watch Caitlin Clark's debut game. She was killing it, obviously. 20 points. Here's the thing, is everybody's like, oh, she didn't put up as much as you thought she would. She put up 20 points. Yes, she had 10 turnovers, but they were guarding her 90 feet the whole way. So all these players that are like the WNBA vets that are saying like, oh, she thinks she's going to come in here, she's not ready for us. Okay, well, if she's really not up to par, if she's really like just any other rookie, why are you guys face guarding her? Like she's like I'm saying, I was like, come on. Why are you guys face guarding her if she's really not all that? So you can't be like, she's overrated, she will not tear it up as much as you all think, and then like play the toughest defense on her in the entire league and then be like, told you. It's like, no, you're treating her like she's one of the best players in the WNBA, and then it's like, that doesn't make any sense. So also, Cameron Brake's been doing really well. That doesn't surprise me. She's uber talented. This is like an exceptional draft class for the WNBA, and I'm very excited to see where the season goes. Apparently, it was like $2 million in revenue from the Liberty game where they played Caitlin Clark, because Brianna Stewart's on Liberty. I didn't realize she left Seattle, so I learned that. Maybe that was recent. I need to get better at my WNBA history. I don't know too many people. I know Cynthia Cooper and Cheryl Swoops. Candace Parker, I know. Maya Moore. But not too much other than that. But anyways, yeah, WNBA is going to be fun. I'm pretty excited. As far as Team USA goes, it's going to be wild to see what Anthony Edwards does, because he's got a chance to win an NBA Finals and turn around and win a gold medal. And that'd be pretty wild. But I think that's all from me. Thanks for listening to the pod, if you made it this far. And, all right. Tune into at least one game of the Pacers-Boston series, because I think this Pacers team's kind of interesting. And this might be the last you see of them for a little bit. Like, I don't know where this team really does next year. I don't know if they'll be back. Maybe they will. But I think it's kind of, if this is the only time they make a run with this team and then it gets changed around, if it's like the 21 Hawks, where it's like, whoa, they might be good for a couple years and then they're not, kind of relish it a little bit. Because obviously the Fever are going to do very well for the next couple years. So it'd be cool if the Pacers did a little, you know what I mean? Kind of cool. Kind of neat. I don't know. Okay. Well, that's good for me. If I watch any new cool movies, I'll talk about it next episode. I don't know if I'm going to do anything special for episode 100. Maybe I will. I got to think on it. But I got 3 more episodes to think. Most likely episode 99 will be the NBA Finals preview. Probably. Most likely. No, it'd be 98. I don't know. Who knows? All right. I'll see you all in the next one. Bye.